Hi everyone, this is Tiana. I'm the GovReports staff member, and my role here is well, almost an all-rounder. I do answer support calls if in case you someone's thinking that voice is familiar. I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar sessions, which we will be talking about single touch payroll, end of year process, the tips and traps you should be looking out for when you are preparing STP and end of year process for your clients. Presenting today's webinar sessions is Deborah Thompson, whose voice I'm sure is familiar to many of you here. As a regular technical presenter of GovReports and for the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. And for today's sessions, Deb will go through some of the technical aspects of single touch payroll, what you should be looking out for when preparing and reporting STP for your clients, and getting on track for easier and end of year reporting obligation process. Before I hand over the control of the webinar to Deb, a little bit of housekeeping. Please raise your hands if you can hear me so that I know that you can all hear me. Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Tracy. Okay, seems like everyone's hearing me. Great. This session is recorded and we will be posted on our website shortly after the session. So if you miss a little bit here and there, you can always revisit the session at your convenience. During the sessions, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to send it through to us so we can come back to it during the question time. Okay. So I will now hand over to Deb.
Hi everyone, thank you Tiana. It's really great to be here, and as a BAS agent I do, go through the same things as you guys. So hopefully I will be able to give you some tips. So we're looking at of course this is Tiana and I. This is Tiana, so that you know who we are. So I'm looking at the agenda. We're going to have a look at a timeline, GovReports and STP. So this is using GovReports. We're going to have a look at single touch payroll through the IAM, that's what I always call it, or IAM business ledger. That is a small accounting package. So let's begin. So for me, I just wanted to mention a timeline. You guys, I'm sure, are very, aware of this. We started last July with our smaller clients that they now need to be on STP, and we're using GovReports. So, of course, as of the 30th of June 2020, will be their first year of finalisation. So I guess the big thing, of course, is to remember that we're not doing payment summaries for most of our clients' payroll. Now, again, you will have to look and see whether you've got voluntary agreements for contractors or you've got your closely held. They all may need payment summaries, but basically anyone that you are doing single touch payroll for, of course, doesn't need a payment summary. Now, we've always had to have payment summaries or the clients have always had to have payment summaries to their employees by the 14th of July. And it's the same with the finalisation. But the finalisation really, to me, is so much easier process. And it means that I can start pretty much all the way through the year and be dealing with some of the issues as I go, that I don't need to wait for that panic of the 30th of June hitting and then having to see all of my clients at once to finalise their payroll. And of course, next year, again, we're going to have the people who haven't been set up this year, which is the closely held clients. So they are going to be needing to be included in the single touch payroll. So do, of course, remember that you can get deferrals for quite a lot of parts of STP. If, for example, there's always going to be an issue of 1 or 2 days deferment from when they get paid, you certainly can apply to the ATO for those deferrals. So I would encourage you, as of April, I suppose, is my favourite time to think about payment summaries, and so therefore it's turned over to single touch payroll. That in April I start thinking of all of my clients and what I'm going to need to do for them depending on what their issues are. So that's my way of working. So the first thing I want to have a look at is actually the GovReports subscription that you may have, and using STP within that. So no extra software, nothing else extra that you need to do. And I use this every week, and I really love it. I find it just so easy. And I get to actually, my client has only got one employee, so it makes it easy. It really is, sort of less than half an hour most of the time for me to actually do the work. So of course, just to, to remind you that this is the normal GovReports portal that you're used to seeing. So that's the normal dashboard, and you go into My Clients as normal, pick the client that you want to see, and then go and select the forms. When you select the forms, I'm sure if you have been using, GovReports, which I'm assuming you are, then you have been seeing this STP payroll events is there available for you to pick. And you'll see that the PAYG payment summaries are still available. And of course, that is because maybe you do have some clients for whatever reason that you're still going to need to do those payment summaries. But remember, it's one or the other. If you're doing STP, then you are doing the finalisation in STP, and you don't need to touch payment summaries. And of course, if you've got voluntary withholding, etc., you may need to. So you pick STP payroll event, and then for me, this is my rundown, and I have my little checklist that I normally do just to sort of remind myself what I need to do when I create a pay run. I select the client, I select the STP form, I then select reporting info and the period dates. Are you paying weekly, fortnightly, monthly? So it's always important, to know what the period is, and then the total employees' gross wages and gross PAYGW for that period. So if you're paying weekly, it's what is the total gross wages for that period. And I'm assuming that most of you will be using this for, just clients with just a few employees. Then you need to add each of the employees individually with their year-to-date figures. We will be looking at all of these screens. And then, of course, once we have saved that, then the declaration comes in. We save that and complete the agent declaration. Then we save and lodge. If we're updating errors, we can use the update event, and that's just basically a tick as you go to the Save and Lodge section. And if you've got authorities in place, of course, if you've got the 12-month authority for single touch payroll with your client, then you can lodge as it suits you. If not, of course, you can save it and send it for signature. So again, most of the process is very similar to a BAS if you have been doing BASs and not STP. Pretty straightforward, I find. So here is my screen once I open the STP payroll event. The first section is I've got my in the client, my employer, the employer, and their ABN details. The second section is the reporting info, and this is the information for the period that you are reporting for. So if you are reporting for a week, then you have the week's dates. If it's a month, you have the month's dates, etc. as appropriate. This is where you put the total gross payments for the wages for that week or fortnight, and the total PAYGW for that week or fortnight. Once you have selected that, you then add your employees, as I said, individually. And with your employees, there is 3 ways of actually getting information into this pay run. You can manually enter each employee. You can import a CSV file. So if you are using some other software, Excel or something else like that, you can import a CSV file, or you can roll over. Now, what rolling over does is it allows you to put all the information, all the standard information for the employee, and then you are still needing to update the year-to-date information. Once you've done that, you, as I mentioned, you've got the declaration that you can tick, and if you have the authority, you are able then to lodge the form, or, as I said, if it is an update event, and an update event is usually used to fix an error of some sort, then you tick the update event before you lodge. So when you go in to add the employee, again, you need to verify the employee's details, and this is really why I use the rollover. It makes it much easier, because all of the information that I have put in previously for the employee is going to come immediately there, and I just need to change my periods if I have a different date. And if it's the final indicator, I can tick it here, or I can, put what is appropriate for this employee. So if they've got the superannuation, if they've got allowances, whatever it is that you need that is appropriate to this employee, you're able to put that information in here. And here is a typical, the information of the detail information, I should say, of the employee, their name, their date of birth. So all of that comes across when you do the rollover. As I said, you put in your period dates. Now the final indicator is also there in that same line. So the advantage of having the final indicator on there is if you have an employee that perhaps only works a couple of months of the year, and then, they work July and August and then they've gone, you are able, when you do their last pay, to actually tick that final event indicator at that time, and they have been finalised, they're finished with, and you don't have to worry about thinking about them on the 30th of June. I mean, I would tend to probably print out my reports and make sure I'm still happy that, nothing has changed. But it is a way of being able to go through your employees as they leave and get them off your books, and so you don't have to panic at the 30th of June and thinking, oh wow, quick, I've got all 20 employees to do. These are the different sections, and what I've done is I've ticked them, so I've opened them up just to show you the different areas. So for example, this individual non-business payment summary, and it does tell you year to date. So this is where you're putting the year to date figure, and when it opens up, these are the sections that it has. So gross payments, the community development employment project, if that's appropriate, the individual non-business tax, so the PAYGW, and any exempt foreign income, again, if that's appropriate. If you do have voluntary agreements with contractors and you want to include them in STP, you absolutely can, and it also again saves you doing payment summaries for them at the end of the year. But currently it's not law, you don't have to do it, but it is available for you to be able to use it. So again, if it was a voluntary agreement, then this is where you put in their gross payment and their PAYG that you've withheld. Again, if you've got business and personal services income, so if you've got labour hire gross payments, and again, the amounts withheld, and then if there's any other sort of payment summary that needs, you can, of course, put that information in here. We then move along to the next section, and again, as I said, I've opened all of these. Normally when you look at them, they're all just one little line's closed, and you only have to tick them if you need to use them. Otherwise, you can ignore them every week. So for example, you've got your joint petroleum development, you've got working holiday maker payment summary. So again, this is, wonderful to, isolate these people out that need different information. Your foreign employment income, your termination payments, your allowances. And I would encourage you to look at the ATO's definition of allowances, because there are some allowances that will go into gross and that aren't included on these breakup for single touch payroll. So there's only 7 different types of allowances that you put in the allowance areas. So for example, my example is like a site allowance. If you've got somebody in construction and they get a site allowance, if it is an allowance that is included in gross wages and it's taxed, then it is going to go generally in gross payments just the same. So it isn't put into this allowance area. So the ATO does have some tables with that. So I would absolutely refer to that if you want to make sure. We've got our lump sums and our terminations. So if you do need to do, redundancies, terminate, a big sort of termination where you're going to use your lump sum A and your lump sum B and your lump sum D, then you absolutely can put this in to single touch payroll as you go. So once you're happy that you have got all the determinations, you know what the tax-free portion is, you know what the taxed portion is, you're able to put this in for your ETPs as you go along. And of course it means that you don't have to do anything else for your ETPs. And again, you've got the section there to pick what code you're going to use for, the different things, if there's a genuine redundancy, etc. Also too, there's deductions, and there may be like workplace giving, or you pay union fees for the employees, then you put them into this section here for deductions. So it's union fees, association fees, and workplace giving. You're not putting in Centrelink, those sorts of deductions that you may be taking out of wages. They don't go into the deductions. You've then got your superannuation guarantee amount and the ordinary times earnings amount and any reportable super, so any risk that you are able to put in. Now again, you may leave that to the end of the year, but in fact you can put it every week, every fortnight as you go along. I personally like to do it as I go along, so that again it's part of my check when I do my reconciliations. You've got your reportable fringe benefit amount, so again it gives you the chance to go and ask your accountant, in April, what are those reportable fringe benefits amounts that need to go in, and again you could put it in April when the accountant gives it to you, or you could leave it to June. Again, the advantage for me is putting it in April. I have done it and it's been taken care of, and I'm not going to accidentally forget where I put that email from the accountant. As a BAS agent, I need to make sure I always remember where those emails are. Also, you have the facility to onboard an employee. So when you get a new employee and you've had their tax file number, you're able to put the information in to the onboarding and to have that included in the information when you are sending their first lot of payroll. So it does make it a lot easier that you've got the declaration signed, has the employee been terminated? Is there a residency status? What is, the information about them that you've taken off the tax file deck? And obviously in the first section is where you've got your TFN. You can then save that employee and go to the next employee. Once you have put all of your employees in for that pay run, you then come down to the fifth section where it is your save and lodge. Now, as I mentioned, an update event is where you have perhaps made an error and you've decided that you want to fix it now because you found it, and send it to the ATO, and you tick it as an update event. You'll see there that you've got the save as a draft, validate and send for signature or lodge. And of course, if you, as I mentioned before, if you have the 12 months authority, you can, lodge it straight away and submit it. So this is what the report from that pay event looks like. And again, it has your business name, your ABN, it's got the reporting period, and as you'll see, it has the total gross for the wages and the total tax for that week that is being paid, and then it has the employees listed and their gross amounts that you are reporting. So this is the year-to-date figures for all of that information. And of course, there are receipts available. So again, you can forward that on to your clients that shows them that it has been lodged, and also, of course, the employees can then go in a couple of days to MyGov and see that information on their own personal MyGov account. So if we're looking at the, I just went blank then. So again, this is what you normally look at with your payroll event. So when you use the rollover facility, it saves the data entry, it selects dates for the new period and selects periods to copy and submit, and then you need to update it. So I'll go back again. So with this, you'll see that I've got the import. You can either manual entry, you can import the CSV, or you have the rollover. I use this every week, as I mentioned. I just click on the rollover, and then I get this screen, which gives me a list of other STP events that I have done for this client, and the dates, how many employees in it, when it was lodged, and the basic status and event type, and I just pick one of those. So for example, if you have, say, 4 staff and your 4 staff are on salary and they're every week they're getting the same pay, you can just pick the last week that you've done, put in the new dates that you need to put in for that STP period and hit submit. And then you've got all of the basic information about the employees in there, and you can just go in and put the new year-to-date figure. So I find that comforting, if you like, because I think, well, if I've typed it correctly the first time, then each time I use the rollover, I'm not going to be, typing the wrong information or misreading, addresses and what have you. So that's where I really like the rollover facility. As I mentioned, when you finalize it and you put the payroll in, you are able to put in that final event indicator. The screen does look a little bit different there than it does currently, but it was just it was sort of a bit too long for me to fit in, so that's why I used one of the old screenshots. That tick is all you need to do to finalise each employee for their end of year. Now, as I said, if they've left and they've left in December, you can tick it in December, or you can leave it until you tick everybody's in the 30th of June. It really is about what's going to suit you best. I have mentioned the update event, and this is really about update events is about correcting information. And when you look at the information, so if you discover that you made a mistake with the payroll and it has been reported to Single Touch Payroll, then you have 2 different choices. You can either correct it within 14 days of discovering the error. So again, if you're paying monthly, then you can go in there and fix it, or you can correct it in the next regular pay event. So again, if you're working if you're doing it every week and you go, oh, well, no, I'll just fix it next week when I do the wages, and then you can do the new event, and it doesn't have to be an update event. So why would you do that? So a misclassification is one of the normal things. Say, for example, you put a site allowance into one of the allowances, and then you realise that it shouldn't be in the allowances, it should be in the gross. Now, they're not getting any extra money. There's no money being refunded, or there's no extra money in their wages. It is just a misclassification of where that is happening. So what you can do is change the amounts as you need to. Say $50 has to come out of one and go into the other, and you can change that amount and just put it in as part of the next pay event. Or, as I said, if you want to do it separately so that you keep it identified, and that again can be a reason why you do it, because you go, I want to be able to show that I have fixed that, and I want to be able to show to myself, and I want to be able to show to my accountant that I fixed it. Then you can tick that update event and lodge it. So that's a really easy way to fix issues. Tiana, is there anything that you would like to add at this point?
I think you covered it very well, Deborah. And I think I don't think there's any question on the floor either.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so that's GovReports. That's using, and one thing I did forget to mention about, of course, GovReports, the STP in GovReports is part of your subscription. And so it's a great way if you have clients who come on board who do only have, you know, a few employees, they don't have any current means of doing wages other than an old wages book. And I do have a client that is exactly why we're doing GovReports STP. And it's wonderful as part of your subscription that it is absolutely there, usable. You get it automatically. So now we want to look, or now I want to look at the Interactive Accounts Manager, the IAM, and it's a GovReports standalone application for basic accounting and really basic compliance lodgement. It's a way of getting your clients to actually put information in and make it easier so that you don't have to go and get bags of pieces of paper and shoe boxes. It is an account that both the business owner and the tax agent or BAS agent are able to actually use it. And the data ownership, again, the client can own it, and the subscription can be paid by either. And it is part of the packages that, you know, the ATO came out and said we're going to do the, you know, under $10 a week packages. And so this is GovReports' answer to that. And I think they're great solutions. So the first one is the IAM STP, which is, again, manual data entry of your payroll details or uploading a CSV. So if they're using Excel, you can upload a CSV file. It is an absolute cut-down version even of the IAM software. And then there's IAM Business, and it is a small accounting system, if you like. It obviously has single touch payroll, but it also has all the other facilities that you would need in an accounting package, but very simple. So with the IAM STP, there is a free trial available for your clients that you can organise and set it up. It allows them to manage the employees and prepare payslips, because generally if they're small enough to be wanting to use this, they're not complying with that, you know, all the requirements that they have to. And so this helps them comply better, and it also means that they're generating the pay run and therefore making it easier for you to do the lodgement if you are being the one who's lodging. Payroll plus STP lodgements, it's only $99 annually. So that really, that well comes under the $10 a week. It is certainly on the web, and I assume that mobile apps may be coming. And there is the free trial available. So I would certainly, if you've got clients that fit the mold, I think it's a great product. Then the other version of the product, which again is a bit bigger, it has sales and purchases and banking and payroll and financial reports. So it is, as I said, an accounting package that is very small but gives the client a lot of capability in that the information for their activity statements can be there, their single touch payroll and tax returns as well. So accountants, tax agents and BAS agents are able to do the follow-on. If the client doesn't want to do it, if they get the information in there, then it gives you a digital way of getting all of that information, and it's only $149 annually, again, which I think is a great price. So that's my bit of plug for them. So we are going to have a look at the if you like, the whole basic accounting software, with obviously STP being the main thing. But this is when you do use the IAM Business, then it is able to do all of these things. So it's got bank feeds, which I think is great. It's so a wonderful way to get clients introduced to actually using software that if they've got their bank feeds and they've, again, got a way of saying to you, well, can you tell me where you want me to put this, and we get to train our clients, which can be very handy. It's got sales, it's got purchases, it's got the payroll, as I mentioned, it's got a chart of accounts, it's got general journals available for tax agents to do whatever it is they need to do if they are doing their tax returns through it. It also does a company tax return, a partnership tax return and a trust tax return for tax agents to be able to do that. Again, obviously they're completed, and that'd be really good if I could spell correctly, once a year, and it's taking whatever the client is already putting into the system, so sales and purchases and payroll. So it really does become a digital system for, to help agents work, and the adjustments like depreciation can be done with a general journal. So again, it is a great solution for your very small client. One of the other features, and this is really the only other side of the accounting that I'm going to talk about, is that it does have a lodgement authorization setting. So for example, if they are using it for single touch payroll and you have the 12 months authority from your client, then you are able to turn off that lodgement authorization so that it's not asking you to do that all the time. Whereas again, if it's for tax and BAS and what have you, you can have that left on. So again, it reminds you to make sure that you get the authorization from your clients. So that is certainly one of the things that you have access to as their agent. So single touch payroll in IAM, and basically in IAM Business. So this is the dashboard, and I have actually got the dashboard set up for payroll. It is customizable, everything works just like it does in GovReports. So if you're used to using GovReports, this won't be a shock to you to use it. You will be able to go into and find your way around, because again, it's got all of the sorts of things that GovReports has in it, where it's got drop-down menus and areas that you're used to seeing. So again, this dashboard is customizable. I only use it for payroll, so I have just got it customized with my payroll information. But of course, you can put more if you're going to be using it all for the sales, the invoices, etc. So in the payroll section of the IAM Business, they have got payroll events. So a pay run, of course, which everything goes around single touch payroll with a pay run. Employee terminations, lump sum payments for those one-off, redundancies or terminations that are happening. Again, don't happen very often, but of course very important having the information correct when they do. We've also got payroll payments, so that the client can acknowledge that these pays have been paid. Now this is only in the IAM Business. It's not in the IAM STP that you use the payroll payments. Then again, the employee, so all the employee information and all the onboarding information that you need. So when you go into the employee, again, very similar to GovReports that you're used to seeing is the plus. And if you don't have a plus, you normally have a plus, say, new pay run, that sort of thing. So it really is an easy thing for us to learn if you've been using GovReports for a while. So if you want to add an employee, again, the screens will be very similar to what you're used to seeing. The one thing here which has got the blue border around it, which I've put the blue border around it, is that contact details, payment details, onboarding. You can put extra information. So all the normal employee information is there. And of course, with the residency, again, off their tax file declaration, you can come in here and mark, are they full-time? Are they getting salary and wages? Are they claiming the tax-free threshold? So all of that is done, is the declaration being signed. So you can, mark that all in the affirmative, and then again in the onboarding when you're sending that first pay run through. So to create the pay run, obviously you've got to add all of your employees. Then you select your pay run on the sidebar, which again, if you're using GovReports, you're probably you find it very easy to realise that. Then you select your new pay run. And there are 3 different ways you can get the information into this pay run, very similar to GovReports, in that you can import a CSV pay run file if you have that. You can select the employee and click rollover again, and we will have a look at that, and then you can manually add, and as you'll see, the button there says plus new pay run. You save and post your pay run, and then you pay your employees, and then of course you can generate your single touch payroll report. So this is a typical pay run screen once you've been using the system for a while, and of course the status is there, is telling you, what pays I've apparently paid, what pays I've got in draft, what pays have been posted but not yet lodged, and so the publish means that they've been lodged, and then of course they're not lodged says that. And then this toolbar, if you like, on the top here gives you the opportunity to do quite a few things when you're on this screen. You can prepare your single touch payroll from here. You can roll over, so when you want to do the next week's pay, you can use that rollover. You've got your new pay run, or you're importing your CSV. So all of that is available on your screen. So this is what the screen looks like when you open to do a new pay run. It is each section available there for you for this person, and you need to add different areas as you have different payment types that you may have paid in this pay run for this person. So we're just going to have a look at that in a little bit more detail. In that, what I wanted to go through was, of course, the STP payroll categories and have a look, sort of what the GovReports ones. So the gross payments in ATO, of course, equals our ordinary earnings and our overtime earnings. And again, depending on what industry, you may have other categories that are going into that wage and salary. As I mentioned, the site allowance for the building and construction industry. Then this is the 7 allowance areas that we have, or that the ATO has set up, and they've got car, transport, laundry, meal, travel and others. I would absolutely encourage you to go to the ATO and get their information about what is supposed to go into those allowances, because, as I said, not everything that is called an allowance actually goes into there. So when you go through the screens that we just had previously, this is me opening up the screen. So I've gone add each time and added the different areas. So for example, in the allowances, I've gone and added each one. Obviously, if you have employees that don't have allowances, then obviously you don't need to, tick all those bits. But again, it's available for you to keep adding as you want. With your ordinary earnings, of course, you're going to have your annual leave, your overtime, your leave loadings, your personal leave. So those are going to go in there. And of course, you are able to set these up with fixed amounts or hourly amounts. So for example, if you have something that, they're getting $2 a day, it's a fixed amount, you can, $2 by 5, you're going to work it out. Or if it is an hourly rate, they're doing 25 hours and they're getting $30 an hour, then the system will work it out, and the tax will be worked out as you go through and fill out the information. The next sections, as I mentioned before, is with the deductions. You've got union fees, association fees and workplace giving. Again, if you believe that you need to fill in those, I would encourage you to look at the ATO's information about workplace giving, etc. You've got your superannuation guarantee contribution, and you've got your RESC. So if you have a RESC super, then you are able to put that in, as I said, as you go. So you've got your salary sacrifice, your additional employee contribution, and your pre-tax voluntary contribution. And then there's also a section for the personal contributions, which is after tax. So again, if you have information or monies that need to go in there, they're available to put that in. Of course, if you don't need it, you don't have to use it. You've then got your, and I've done it in the order that it is, that comes down on the screen. So then we've got our PAYG withholding, which is our tax, and that will have been working out as it goes. And of course, that gives you an opportunity to check and see whether the right tax has been taken out. You've got your reportable fringe benefits. So as I mentioned, if you have, get that information from the accountant in April, you absolutely can put it in then when you get it. You've got the community development employment projects, if that's appropriate. You've got exempt foreign income, again, if that's appropriate, and the foreign tax paid. This has also got the final event indicator, so if they've finished work, you can tick that, and it's also got, do you want to fill in the cessation date? So if they have left, you can absolutely put that information in there, because if you remember our payment summaries, it's not that long ago since we've done them, every year we would put when people work. So if they didn't work the whole year, you'd put, the period that they worked. So it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same with single touch payroll. It's like doing a payment summary every week if you pay them weekly. And so that's why you can put those dates in and the ticks as you finalise. When you do a new, so that is a new pay, a pay run for an individual. So when you do that, a new pay run, you can also set up a template. So again, you can go and set up that template. So if one employee is on a fixed amount and another employee is on an hourly rate, you're able to go and set that up as you go and set that template up so that you can keep using that template. So that makes it, again, it's all about making sure that we have, as few opportunities to make an error, just to make our lives and, easier and less stress. So here is the payroll, and so I have a little film here that if I want to use a pay run and use the payroll over the rollover, this is what you do. You basically pick the employees, the list of employees that you want to include in this rollover, and you'll see that they're not lodged, not that that matters, but I'm going to go and just hit rollover, and it does its little work. I put in my start date of the period that I'm going to be working on. I put in the end date of the period. If I'm wrong, it's always good to make the right decision. And I put the end date of the period that I'm doing. I put the transaction date, so if they work Monday to Friday but they get paid the next Monday, it's there. And then once I submit that, the machine does its thing, and you'll see that it's created them. So there it's created 2 employees with exactly the same information. So this is perfect if you have got employees who are on salary. As you'll see, which hopefully you can, is that the net pay is exactly the same as the previous one that we've copied. So it is just copying that information, and it gives you that chance to change the dates. So I really love the rollover facility in this. Once you have done that rollover and you've lodged it, you've posted it, you then can click on the person and you will see their pay slips. You can, of course, email their pay slips to the employees, and again, this gives you the opportunity, or your clients the opportunity, to actually comply in case they haven't been great compliers with payroll, with pay slips. Also, what you may notice up here is that it's giving me the information of when the payslip was created, when I have marked that I have paid this person, and as once I emailed the payslip, it'll then have the date there that I've emailed the payslip. So that is absolutely a great way that if you've got Fair Work coming in and saying, well, look, do you send payslips? Somebody said you don't. We go, yeah, here we are. We can show you the dates that they have gone, the dates they've got paid and the dates their payslips have gone out, and other information. Again, it's about having it digitally so that you don't have to have, big payroll books. You don't have to print anything out because it is all available anytime. So this is what the payslip looks like. It's got what they've earned in the ordinary earnings this week and the superannuation calculation and the tax, etc. And down here it's got the year-to-date figures. So it allows them, if they do have their MyGov set up, that they can go into MyGov and, in a few days that information will be in their MyGov and they can see it wherever they're looking, the same information always gives you confidence. So if we have the termination payments again, the employment termination lump sum payment, the information is there for you to pick the right codes, the tax-free component, the taxable component if you've got it, the PAYG for an ETP. So, this is saving you having to, worry about ETPs. And again, you've got the classifications there for you to be able to pick the right classification for whatever payment you're making. And again, with the lump sums, so if you need to put something in redundancy, which seems to be the one that's most used these days, the tax-free portion, you're able to put that information in here as you go, and it makes it, to me, it just makes it so feel more complete that as I've been going along and I'm dealing with everything now, I don't have to go, well, I've got to remember to do that at the end of the year. I can do it as I go along. And that, for me, is one of the biggest things. It makes me feel a bit more comfortable. When you have a terminated employee, as I mentioned, that you can, when you do their last pay, you are absolutely able to put in their date of when they left. And again, this you can, if you want to at this time, as I mentioned before, tick that final event indicator. For me, last year when I did my single touch payroll the first time, I do know that I went, oh, shouldn't I be doing more? Payment summaries were a lot more. But it can be very simple. And again, if you do reconciliations as you go along, it makes it very simple to do that end of year. Now, sometimes life doesn't go as we wanted it to, and mistakes happen, issues happen, and this is obviously, everybody's human and things happen. So one of the ways of correcting those things that happen is with what the ATO call a full file replacement. So if you've got errors or corrections and you feel it's just too massive that it's, that it's maybe, it's changed 4 weeks' pays or something like this, and you think, oh, it's just too hard, you can actually go through, create the new transaction and then put it into a full file replacement, and the ATO then basically does, overwrite whatever you had previously sent and puts that in. And so it does make it, feel like, okay, I can fresh start. I've got a full file replacement. And so it's just a matter of going into your saved reports in your draft format, go to the pay screen, edit the pay slips, open the saved report, click on edit, do what you need to, refresh it, and then you are able to lodge that full file replacement and tell them that that's what it is. Then the other one, which we've also mentioned with the GovReports STP, is the update event. So, and as I said, if it's a misclassification, you can do it in the next pay run when you normally do it, or you can do it as an update event. And it's just a matter of ticking, what you, that it's an update event as you post it. So it is very similar, very simple to do that. Again, if, for example, you come to the end of the year and you haven't finalised anyone, what you are absolutely able to do, if you didn't want to do it until after you've done the last pay because you wanted to check, your balances, which is fine, then you can come in and tick all of them as a final event indicator and update all of your staff at the same time. Because once you mark it as a final event indicator, that's when they tell the employees that it is ready for them to do their tax. So it does need to happen. And as I mentioned, the 14th of July, like they would receive a payment summary, is when the expectations that it will be done. Then to prepare, okay, not working, there it is. So this is preparing a STP lodgement. So once you've created, just again to refresh it for you, once you've created the pay run, you can come in here into your pay run, see what is not lodged, tick the ones that need to be for that week lodged, and go to prepare single touch payroll, hit OK, and you get this screen with, there's 3 screens in it telling you what you're paying for the week. The next screen is giving you the employees that you're paying, and then the next one is the declaration that you're stating. And of course, if you have got the 12-month authority, you can lodge that. If not, you can save it, validate it and save it, or send it for a signature if that's what you need to do. Once you have it saved in your saved reports area, which again you would be used to in GovReports, go to the pay event, look at the report, and this is the report showing you that you're going to need the authority. So this is what the report looks like as per previously. It's the same report. This is the amount for the weekly pays that are happening, and this is the amount, the year-to-date figures that you are telling them for each of the employees. And again, we get a receipt when it is lodged that you are able to forward onto your onto your clients. And as I mentioned before, if you haven't done the finalisation, you can do that on their last pay, or you can do it as an update event. And I don't know whether I've done this twice now. I think okay. So as I said, if you've missed the final event, you can go in there as an update event and finalise everybody at the same time. And yes, so then you just lodge that update event, and again it will show on your reports. Now this is an STP report that we don't have to supply payment summaries to employees. There's no legal requirement to tell them what they've been paid other than through their payslip. So they don't have to have this form, but this form is available if you want to, because again, if people have been getting a payment summary for 30 years, especially the first time, they get a bit of a shock when they don't get anything and you say go to your MyGov report. So important sometimes to have that, but you certainly don't have to. There are other reports that are available in the software. So this is a payroll summary report, again looking at the period for the whole year. Again, this might be something that once you've done that last pay, if you haven't wanted to do the final event indicator, you might want to do this report, check that you see that you're happy with what balances are there against whatever else you are preparing your payroll with, and check that this is correct. Then go in and do that update event for your finalisation. There's also a PAYG payment summary annual report. And again, if you remember with our payment summary, we always did the PSAR, the payment summary annual report, that basically did this information. Again, it got electronic in the last few years, but you can do that again and have that with your source documents if that is what you need, or the way that you work. And then your payroll transaction journals to show you what journals have been happening with the payroll. So again, depending on what you need to report to who, they are available. And so if you've got clients filling in this information, you can come in here and look at those reports for your source documents for you doing the income tax if you're a tax agent. Also got your superannuation summary report. So again, if the clients are using the ATO portal, the small business clearinghouse, to do their super, or whatever clearinghouse they're using to do their superannuation, there's a report available for them to make sure that they have paid the super. And that's always an important thing to, when you're looking as you come towards the 1st of June, to be looking at that report and seeing that the superannuation has been paid. Again, you can also have a look at STP Payroll events, so you can, get reports for that. So I would encourage you, there's quite a lot of reports in the software. And of course, as IAM Business, there is also accounting software reports. So there's, sales reports and general ledger reports that are available, as well as all of these payroll reports. And then the very last thing, once you have done all the finalisation, you are able to then come in and manage your financial year. So roll over your financial year. You come back in, go to manage financial years, and then there is a actions where you're able to roll over or look at the history. So hopefully that has been helpful, and that's everything included in there. So Tiana, is there anything else that you would like to add that I have missed? Or
on a technical level, absolutely no, because I'm not a BAS agent. However, I do have a question from Vicky, and I think you're the perfect person to answer these questions, Deb. Yep. Vicky's question is, as a BAS agent using GovReports to lodge weekly STP pay runs, when you process the final payroll for the year, you have not had the bank statements to reconcile the payroll complete. How can you then go back and finalize the payroll?
Well, if you are lucky enough to have that information from the client, and for the particular client that I am doing the GovReports STP, I do have the bank statement as soon as it's issued. And generally that is like, the second or the third day after the end of the month. So I am fortunate in that I do have the bank and I can prove that the money has gone through. Other than that, Tiana, do you know if there's an issue? Is there any way, or Sandeep might know, if you roll it over, can you then go back and finalise something if you haven't? Are you there,
Tiana? I am here, but still thinking about the questions. I think from the payroll's point of view, because it's year to date, so the final payment, it's as part of STP, is year to date. That's the final pay. In terms of reconciling, I think this is where you have to, look at your client's accounting systems to reconcile that. Wouldn't it be? Am I correct, Deb?
Yeah. Sorry. I think I'm thinking about. No, I'm thinking about it, Tiana, too. For example, with me, I have been checking as I've gone along. I'm also looking at my clients, when is their last pay. So if they're a fortnight pay, you might be lucky, which I was this year, last year, that I had one client who got their last pay like the 18th of June. So I had a lovely fortnight to be able to clean it. So that's for me where I start to look in April, when are my clients going to, when is their last pay, and what pressures or, bit of space have I got that I can do my reconciliations for. So I don't know if that helps. Tiana, were you going to say something else?
I think this is why Vicky is saying is that, but the reconciliation are never done before the final payroll.
Well, I do the reconciliation, I must say, ever since I've done manual payrolls back in the day. I start in April, and I, in fact, actually do my reconciliations every month as I go and see that things haven't changed. So it might be just me, but definitely I would have already reconciled at least to April by the time I get to June. But generally I've reconciled April and May as well. So I've only got that last pay.
Okay, so Kim Harris, Kim is agreeing with you, Deb, and it's yeah, it's to keep the reconciliation sheet and reconcile each quarter on the month.
Yeah, I mean, I have my source documents that I mean, I do tend to print off source documents. So every month I have a report on what's gone through. And now I've added the STP reports to what I keep as my reconciliation. And I do actually have a spreadsheet that I'm putting in as I go.
Vicky, if this is the answers are not satisfied, I will get our analyst to have a look at this and come back to you separately off the webinar, perhaps by tomorrow. We do have another questions from Bridget. And do you have to roll over to use the function next financial year? Sandeep?
We can't hear Sandeep. Roll it over.
You don't have to, Bridget, from my memories, but I'll check with our technical to make sure that it's correct. But I remember you don't have to roll over if you just want to start for, the new financial year. It's a fresh year.
Oh yeah, I think maybe I did it just out of panic. That's what I did it for last.
Okay. We don't have any other questions as of now. So if anyone has any more questions after the sessions, please don't hesitate to give us a call or send us your query, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Or if you have questions or want to know more about the GovReports features or service or the workflow that we went through today, please reach out to us. Well, that seems like we have covered everything. Thanks, Deb. Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoy the sessions. And
we have one more question. We have one more question from Eddie. And yes, Eddie, I do absolutely believe that this would count towards your continued professional education.
We'll send a certificate.
Would you, Tiana, agree with that?
I agree. We used to have, there was this process where we can give the certificate that's cover the CPE, but I'm not too sure that's still the same. I'll check on that. I'll come back to you, Eddie. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thanks very much. Good night. Thanks, Tiana. Bye.